Hey everyone, it's JT and it's Friday, and I don't normally broadcast live here, but last night as a team, we decided it was really important, given everything that's going on, to do a broadcast today specifically for all of you out there that are actively looking for work or thinking about job search in times of a crisis. We've got a crisis going on right now. And so we put together a deck, and I wanted to talk about the 3 things that you can do right now. So why do I want you to think about this? I'm not here to hype you and scare you. I'm going to give you the realities of what's going on. But more importantly, I want you to feel empowered to take action. There are things that you can be doing right now. If you're between jobs, or if you have a job and you're thinking maybe you're going to lose your job, we're going to talk about that. There are things you can do right now to feel empowered. And I started this company in the last recession. I started it because I saw so many people completely ill prepared for what was going to happen to them. And when you're in that place emotionally, it can be difficult to rally yourself to take the steps you need to take, because people are so hard on themselves. They step back and they say, "What did I do wrong?" You did nothing wrong. None of us could have predicted these events, but we can take control and take action of what we have available to us right now. So I'm going to walk you through 3 things that you can do right now that can give you a little sense of feeling of control and candidly can prepare you in the event you do need to jump into job search hyper mode. Okay. All right. So let's talk about that first. We've gotten the double whammy. I mean, we are getting dealt the worst deck of cards right now. When I go back and I look at the 2008 financial crisis, it was the mortgages. And, it was interesting. I was talking to a financial expert this week, and he said, the next crisis we get is never the cause of the last crisis is never what causes the next one. So he said, look, the mortgage industry is not going to be the cause of the current crisis because we don't have a lot of mortgage debt. We have a lot of high consumer debt. He said, so that can be the cause of the crisis. Even then, though, we could have never predicted that we would be going through a financial crisis and the whole coronavirus thing at the same time, which is creating that double whammy effect. It is what it is. We have to focus on taking care of ourselves right now. We have to focus on what's important, what's in front of us right now. But when the dust settles, and it will settle, it will. We have plenty of history to show this. It will settle, and we will go back to things. We will all then have to get back to working, looking for work. And that's the part that I want to focus on. It's the one part I can help you with. So it is our reality. Let's not beat ourselves up. Let's deal and let's do what we can. So first thing you need to know, what's going to happen right now is hiring is going to slow. Most companies are going to virtual interviews. So you do need to be camera ready. If you're doing video interviews, you need to know how to do a proper video interview. I'll tell you that if you're not doing that, that's stuff that you need to be looking at. But the final hire, they're still going to want to meet that person in person. So that's where the hiring is going to slow right now. Companies are going to wait. They're going to hold off till things settle down and they can bring everybody back into work and people can meet you face to face. So just know that that whole process is going to slow up right now. And again, there's nothing we can really do about it. But companies are also going to restructure. So this is the thing that I really needed to make sure that I got out, that people understand. We were due for a market correction. We have high consumer debt. We've been on a rise for a really long time. A correction was coming. Prior to coronavirus, there were plenty of companies that were not hitting their numbers and were probably going to be called to the carpet because they were having challenges. Coronavirus is the tipping point. So those companies are able to then use coronavirus as the catalyst for restructuring, and restructuring makes layoffs. It's just what's going to happen. We are not going to get around it. And so anybody out there right now that's in a job, maybe you're looking for work because you want something different, but you're in a job. The one thing I can tell you that you have to realize is that if you have a job, focus on keeping it right now. I know people are going, well, that's obvious advice, JT, but I can't stress it enough. It's not just going, well, at least I have a job and I'll stop looking for a job. I'm talking about you thinking about how you keep your job. And so I wanted to hit on that a little bit here, because the one thing you have to ask yourself is, how relevant are you to the business model? This is something people come to me a lot and say, JT, could I be a candidate for layoffs? And you first have to say, the work that I do, how directly does that impact sales? Because if you're work is more of a nice to have, if your work is work that they can get by without during a major crisis, then you are definitely at risk. We talk about people being fungible or being a commodity. If there are multiple people on your staff that do the same job as you, and your company's thinking, I can do this with 2 people instead of 5, you're at risk. So there's just some common things you should be looking at. Am I super relevant to the business? There's one other way you can look at this, and that is, when you're at risk, you have to start preparing now. If you are not doing work that your boss doesn't want back, that nobody else in the organization can do, that is so mission critical that the business will definitely go out of business because I don't do it, then you need to start thinking about preparing in the event you lose your job, because there's nothing worse than being blindsided. I've had so many people join Market Daily and say, I just kept my head down and I thought I'll deal with it when it comes. But now, JT, I'm so far behind the 8 ball. I'm so emotionally overwhelmed. I'm so scared. Now, please just do some prep right now. It's not hours out of your day. It's not, a ton of time. There are just some simple things you can do right now that will prepare you so that if you get blindsided or hit with this curveball, you're like, okay, well, at least I took some action. That's going to emotionally and psychologically make you feel better. And that's how you're going to be able to engage faster. Okay. All right. So there are 3 things that I want you to prepare right now. And candidly, folks, this doesn't take a lot of time. You just got to make the time. So first one is obviously your resume. We still use resumes today. Recruiters still need them. And one quick tip I can give you right now is that when you're in a pinch for a resume, you can use LinkedIn. So if you're not familiar with how to do that, you can actually go over to your LinkedIn profile, and under the More section, there's a way for you to take your LinkedIn profile and turn it into a PDF. So remember, LinkedIn got purchased by Microsoft. Microsoft has put their technology in there. And what we'll do is take your resume and turn it into something that takes your LinkedIn profile and turns it into something that looks like a resume. I would suggest everyone that's listening to the session today to actually do that. It's going to take you 2 seconds to do. And the reason being is you should then look at your LinkedIn profile in a resume format and say, does it make sense? Do I have the right information in there? And the little follow-up piece of advice I want to give to you on that is you don't want too much information. TMI is not good right now. If you have way too much written on your LinkedIn profile, it's going to be overkill. Also, too little information is a problem too. If you don't have your LinkedIn profile filled out, that's a problem too. So that leads to, obviously, number 2, everyone should be taking a little time right now to go and see how is their LinkedIn profile formatted? Do you have the right balance of information? So this is not the time to get creative. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. In good times, people they say, I want to stand out. So they write something really witty in their headline, and they write this epic novel in their about section, trying to tell this compelling story. Now is not the time to do that on your LinkedIn profile. It actually really works against you, especially in times of crisis. And I want you to step back and think about it. I'm a recruiter. I know that in times of crisis, jobs always mean a lot to people, but even more so now, right? So as I'm looking at candidates, I'm looking for candidates with something called intellectual humility. And the reason I want you to do that is because you're just putting the facts. When you start to try to hype yourself, it works against you. Intellectual humility is not you sitting there saying how great you are, that you're a proven, results-oriented leader. That's an opinion of yourself. You need to get rid of all this subjective text all over your LinkedIn where you're trying to make yourself sound like the most amazing thing. It completely works against you, especially in times of crisis. Right now, it's all about low key, just the facts. What have you gotten done? Intellectual humility. So you need the right balance. Too little information and you won't even have enough to make a resume. Too much information and you're going to come across narcissistic and self-important and too creative. And that's just giving recruiters more reasons to disqualify you. I think that people don't understand that recruiters are technical buyers of you. So they're having to look at a checklist. The way they get graded on how well they do their job is on how good of a match you are to the position. So when you put all this extra stuff on there, all you're doing is giving them more reasons to disqualify you. And not enough people understand that. If a recruiter says to you, you need more information on your profile, of course, they want more information on the profile because it gives them more reasons to figure out if you're, right or wrong, and they don't have to talk to you. So today it's about the balance. You've got to have just enough information so that they say, check, 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 check. These facts match what I'm looking for, but I don't have enough information. So I need to pick up the phone and call this person. So that's why you have to have that right balance on LinkedIn. Okay. All right. Third thing that you need. Now, most people know about the resume and the LinkedIn profile. So you're saying, JT, I haven't taught you anything new, but this one you may not be thinking about because it's not really how we looked for work decades ago, but it is how we look for work now. You must start building an interview bucket list. So this is companies that you respect and admire what they do for work, and you believe that they would hire for your skill set. And this is a list of 10 or 20 companies in your commutable area that you would want to hyper target to get employed by. So why do you want to do that? Because you want to avoid something called spraying and praying. So because of technology and the fact that all these companies have implemented applicant tracking systems, it's actually made our jobs as recruiters much harder. And that's because anyone can apply to a job. In times like this, in times like crisis, people who are not qualified for positions are going to just apply to hundreds and hundreds of jobs. It's so ineffective. They won't get jobs. They won't get phone calls. But what they do is completely muddy the waters. So you trying to apply isn't going to work either, because instead of just 50 people applying for the job, now 2,000 people have applied for the job. You're not going to stand out. So you don't want to do spray and pray. You want to have a very hyper-targeted list of 10 to 20 companies that you know that you would want to work for that can hire you. And this way you can go around the ATS. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you're probably still going to apply online. It's just that truly 97% of people don't get a phone call. But if you know what companies you want to work for, you also can work back channels. And we do that by networking. So we have incredible tools like LinkedIn, which I'm streaming on live now, where we can do our homework and identify lots of people that work at these organizations. LinkedIn also shows us if we know people who know people that work at those organizations, and we're able to reach out to them and say, hey, this company's on my bucket list, or one of the top 10 companies I want to work for. Would you be able to introduce me to so-and-so? I just want to learn what it would take to maybe earn an interview there someday. I'm not going to ask them for a job. I just want to do an informational interview. This is how you get referred in. It is so important you do this. And let me prove it to you. Ask any salesperson you know, any really accomplished salesperson. If you don't know someone, in fact, if I have any salespeople here today, maybe you'll chime in the comments, to make a difficult sale, right? An expensive sale. And let's face it, you're all businesses of one selling your business that's worth thousands of dollars in the form of a salary. To make a difficult sale in a competitive time, like a crisis, it takes more than a good price. You can't just be market value. You also are going to need an internal champion to push for you. So this is why networking in times of financial crisis and, virus crisis, any kind of crisis, are so important. It really is going to start to become who you know. And so if you don't have a network right now, you need to start building one, especially at those companies that you're interested in. And again, here's the great news. When I started this company after the last crisis, we were nowhere near where we were today with LinkedIn. We didn't have all of these tools at our disposal. So it is a better time than it was a decade ago, which makes me really happy. And we can get this information like we're doing now on these channels and get the support we need to be able to move forward. But make no mistake, this third one, having an interview bucket list and starting to reach out and connect with people, it's better now, folks, than when you lose your job and you have no resume done, no LinkedIn profile optimized, and no bucket list and no networking going. You just don't want to be there. And I know a lot of people are going to hear this today and probably do nothing. But if I get to one person today, given everything that's going on, and they start to make these steps and something happens and they're ahead of the game, then I'm going to be happy, because I was there in the last one and it's not fun. The emotional stress that people go through, the financial stress that people go through, it's not fun. And so anytime we can alleviate that for some people, it's really, really important that we do that. Okay. So I want to take a bunch of questions right now, and I know my team is going to help me out with that. We're going to take a look at that. If you've got questions specifically around how to deal with this, how to cope with this, please do. So we will bring that up in a second. So bear with me. I have amazing teammates who are bringing those up. All right. So we're going to start here. So Shiko is over on YouTube. Hey, Shiko, do you think it is better to apply for now? Well, I think that if there's a job available and you are 100% fit for it, I wouldn't wait to apply. Absolutely. Things can change. I would definitely go forward with that application. I just would make sure that you don't jump to a new job just because. Make sure, folks, that you're really picking a job that's the right fit for you. For those of you that don't have any interview prep practice, you really should be getting some help with interviews so that you can not only do well in the interview, but also interview them. Some of these companies you're going to be interviewing at, they can be hiring today and laying off tomorrow. So you need to be able to kind of get inside their head and understand what's happening at that organization. You don't want to jump ship for an opportunity that's not going to pan out. And it happens, right? Businesses can't predict what's going to happen to them every day. They have to keep moving forward. And sometimes they make these decisions and the next thing you know, they have to lay off. So I would go ahead and apply. I wouldn't stop applying, but make sure that if you get the interview, that you're really being careful and that you're moving to an organization that may not end up in a bad place. So another question from YouTube, Frederica. Hey, Frederica, what do you suggest people do who are already in transition out of work and are amidst the job hunt right now? Yeah, I know, Frederica, there's a group of you out there dealing with that. My advice is to double down. At this point, I'm assuming you've got your LinkedIn profile and your resume in good shape because you've been looking. You need to double down on your networking efforts and you need to be hyper targeted. You don't want to say, I'll take anything. That works against you, folks. It really does. You need to know your strengths. You need to know your reputation and what value you bring. And you need to really target in on those places where you could be of value. That's the key. Be cognizant. Think about companies that are going to survive this business, that will still always be in business, right? So the other thing is to kind of focus your efforts on businesses that might not be risky per se. So, but double down. You should expand your bucket list. You should try to get that up to 30 or 40 companies, and you should be trying to meet with anywhere from 2 to 5 people in each organization in order to increase the chances you can get noticed for a job. Okay. All right. Question from Chastity. Do you think this will cause more companies to look at remote work being more of an option for their employees? Lots have tried to make the switch pretty quickly here. Yeah, it's funny. I never want to say silver lining to a crisis, but I think when we have crisis, it creates constraints, and constraints create creativity and opportunities to look at things in a different way. So I have to say, Chastity, to some degree, you might have companies go, well, wow, I don't think we never thought we could work remotely. I think a lot of people out there, if you are given the opportunity to work remotely, now's the time to really wow them if it's something you've wanted to make happen. I will tell you that studies show that purely remote workforces do not work long term. We're getting plenty of data now. There's been enough of a period of time where companies have been fully remote. They work well for a while, and then there's a disconnect. So partial remote work can be an opportunity for sure. And companies may now look at that as a result of this, but it will really depend on how effective people are when they are in quarantine and working remotely. So my advice to anybody out there that's thinking, hey, could this be the way that I get a remote work job? Crush it in your job during this time and show them that you can work remotely. But understand that most companies are not going to be amenable to fully remote workforce, just so you know. Let's see. Escafe says, what if you're looking to move locations during the coronavirus? So that's really difficult. It's going to be really difficult. I will say this, now that companies are interviewing remotely, you hopefully can make that happen. If they weren't interviewing remotely before, they might. But whenever you're looking to move locations work-wise, folks, you need to make it clear to employers today that you're planning to move there regardless, because they don't want to take on the burden of you hiring you and then you not working out. Most companies today have a 90-day clause, which says if the first 90 days, if you're not a fit, we can fire you for no reason. And companies don't want you to move, 1,000 miles, 3,000 miles, how far to them, only for them to realize you're not the right fit. So my advice to anyone that's thinking about relo, it's important, again, the bucket list. This is why I keep going back to the bucket list. You need to network with people there so that you can have the opportunity to explain you are planning to move there regardless. It's not them. You are moving there. Therefore, you will need a job there. When you can get that message conveyed, and that's, again, why you need a champion, that will help you. All right. The fam says over on YouTube, hey there, if companies are moving to remote work during the crisis and canceling meetings, how do you continue to network? Online? Absolutely online. You're going to see a lot more people on Sites like LinkedIn, if you're members of groups, you can go in there and join the conversation. You can post content, you can reach out to people, you can ask them how they're doing. There's a lot that you can do. We can do everything that we do face to face online these days. You can do video, you can connect. You just got to make the effort. Absolutely. All right. Bridget asks, will this crisis make the case for remote and gig work? Yeah, we're getting a lot of it. Yeah, it will. I think that, again, as we just talked about earlier, companies will realize, gee, it is possible for people to do our work remotely. But I cannot stress it enough. We are getting data in now that says long-term remote work for an entire company is different. Certain positions, sure, but I'm not sure how much this will become. People, and I don't think this you per se, Bridget, but a lot of people have this dream that, oh, I should be able to just work and live wherever I want to. And I get that. And there are some things that you can do that afford that, but it's not all it's cracked up to be. We need the camaraderie. We need to be able to see everyone. Look, my company, we work remotely 1 day a week, but I would miss these folks. And, we get to know each other a lot better by being together. So I don't see it, while we will be able to, if we get quarantined, to be able to all work remotely, it's because we were together in a room together for a while that's made that possible. So just don't hope too much, folks. The whole world isn't going to go remote. And I didn't think you asked that, Bridget, but I think it's important to share that. Okay. What's a good template to approach networking contacts during a crisis? To be honest, call out the obvious. Wow. How is this affecting you? How's it affecting your business, your job? What are you doing? What's your company doing? There's so much fascinating conversation that can happen around this. Just lead with that, right? Lead with the obvious, most definitely. Okay, Tatiana says, after the crisis is over and things get to normal, what would be the best approach? What will companies be focusing on first? Will hiring be one of the top priority, and should we expect lower salaries? That's a great multi-part question, Tatiana. So hiring will go back full force, most definitely, if they have the positions. What we can't predict right now is what level of damage this is going to do. So most companies will go back, forgive me, folks. I've literally been live and talking since early this morning. But what they have to do first is say, wait a minute, what's the health of our business? Before we go on this massive hiring spree, is there any damage that can happen sort of as a ripple effect? So you know that your CFOs and all the people in charge of your finances are looking very closely at this stuff right now. Once they start to see indicators, and every company's indicators are different. So some can see indicators as quickly as a week or a month. Others might say, my gosh, it's going to take us 3 months to know if our indicators are back on track. So that's something that we'll learn more about after the fact. Once their leading indicators are going positive again, they will start to hire. And as far as the salaries question, I think that I don't think companies are going to lowball people. I don't think that's the case. But you have to remember that if we do have any kind of significant market correction and a lot more people lose their jobs, then you're talking about way more talent being available and being willing to take lower pay. So you very well could see a correction in pay, most definitely. Only time will tell. It's certainly very possible. It just depends to what degree unemployment gets impacted. Jeff says, how do you get multiple companies to pull the hiring trigger ASAP instead of watching the coronavirus and talking to their clients about supply chain issues? This seems to have stopped them. You can't game this system, Jeff. You can't. That's why I'm on here today talking about preparing. There's nothing magic. Trust me, I've been in this for so long, if there was something I could tell you all to magically make that happen, I would. That's why I'm here. This is a time for preparation and patience. Here's one thing I will tell you, though, on the opposite side of that, Jeff, and please, everyone, listen to me. Being pushy and following up too much with a recruiter or a hiring manager is the fastest way to get blacklisted. So please be very careful about how often you're following up and checking in. It can look needy and it can look pushy, and you will be blacklisted. And I saw it happen in the last one. So you got to sit on your hands. You got to hold back. You got to understand where they're at and respect it. I know your needs and the crisis you're feeling, but they're in crisis too for entirely different reasons. And they have something you want. You have to be very patient and very careful. Nada says, do you recommend using someone else to prepare and fix my resume, or should I take a course and do it myself? So Nada, I'm not a fan of having somebody write your resume. And the reason for that, and this is one career coach's opinion, but understand I've been doing this since 2002, is that you need to understand what you're going to market about yourself. I get a lot of people in Work It Daily who come in and they show me a resume that they spent $300 on, $1,000 on. I literally had a gentleman who spent $3,000 with someone, and the resume was designed to impress them because they were paying. So you get the resume and it's covered in fancy fonts and it's got a ton of text on it. And it's all the things I told you about today not to do. It was intellectual superiority and trying to hype themselves, and it doesn't work. So I would much rather you learn how to do your resume the right way yourself. It is not hard. It is not rocket science. It is not brain surgery. And please don't let anybody tell you it is. It is about facts and white space and simple formatting so that me, the recruiter, when I open your resume up, can in 6 seconds understand what your main skill sets are. That's what a resume needs to do today. Resumes have evolved. You can do that yourself. Now, getting help doing it, definitely a good idea, right? Please don't just grab free templates out on the internet. Those are all outdated. They don't work and everybody else is using them. What you need is to know how to do a white space driven resume. So in that respect, get some help and some coaching on how to build your resume, but learning how to build it yourself, most empowering thing you can do, because then as you learn and grow, you can always make the updates yourself and you will save yourself quite a bit of money, and candidly, it will be better done. All right. Zanab says, is it still a good time to negotiate salary? I have an offer on the table right now, and I'm wondering if I should still negotiate. Thank you. Oh, wow. That is a really great question. I think it's more important to understand the backstory of how you got hired. So if you are somebody that is in a critical role and they had a very hard time finding you, right? So if you know that the next candidate behind you is way far behind you, or you are the clear standout winner, well, then there's an opportunity to negotiate, but be respectful. I would say, if you feel that they're undervaluing you and they're not giving you a fair rate, then and you need a certain rate to live on, well, then this would be the time to ask them for that very politely. Say, this is hard, but I would really love an opportunity to earn this. This is why I need it. Do you think you could meet me there? I promise I'll exceed your expectations and make sure that you're happy. You could also say, look, I know things are in crisis right now. This isn't the ideal resume or salary I wanted, but I really want to work with you. Can I accept this job, but can we agree in 6 months when things have worked through that we could go back and look at my salary instead of waiting for a whole year for an annual review? Because again, I understand I want to be respectful of the business and where you're at, but I'm hoping if we can get through this, the crises and things back on track, I really was looking to earn more. Could we plan to revisit that in 6 months? So you could do it that way as well. So that way you're showing respect to what's happening in the situation, but you're also saying, look, I'm not going to wait a year for this opportunity. When things settles, I'm going to want to have a conversation about making more money. Those would be two ways that I would look at doing it. And just one other thing that I want to mention to everybody, that this is not the time to be overpriced, right? You do not want to be the most expensive paid person in your skill set or in your company, because that's the quickest place for people to save money. So I would be very careful about trying to negotiate for something that's very high in the market, because that could come back to bite you. And candidly, they'll probably say no at this point, given everything that's going on. So hopefully my other two suggestions are better for you. Let's say Mike says, I'm 56 and out of work since August, many phone interviews, but only one in person. What's the outlook for someone in my position? So Mike, you've gotten phone interviews. So obviously something in your skill set is resonating. Something is happening between the phone interview and the in-person. So I think the key there is you have an area that you can focus on working on. I can't give you an outlook because I don't know enough about you, but I do know that if you are getting phone screens, you're getting through a very difficult part of the process. And all of us have the ability to upskill. So you're not set in your ways. If there's something happening in that phone screen, and I'm gonna take an educated guess here to try to help you, okay? But if you're 56, I have found people over the age of 40 tend to not interview as well and they don't know it. And the reason is that when they started out in their careers and they had no experience, right? They were just trying to get a job. And then you get a job and you get experience, you get experience. And in our minds, we're like, oh my gosh, I'm an asset now. I remember the days when I had no experience. Now I have so much experience. I can't wait to get on the phone and tell them how I'm going to be the best bang for their buck. So we don't realize it, but the way we're answering the questions and the way we're talking is coming across really intense, sometimes kind of know-it-all, but more importantly, like, oh boy, they're not going to change in their ways. And, so when they say to you things like, I think you're too expensive for us, or I think you're overqualified. A lot of times that has to do with the way what you've been saying in the phone interview landed. So, at Work It Daily, we actually have a whole video tutorial for people over 40 where we talk about that, because you have to change your approach in what you say and how you say it. But the good news is you can do that. So my outlook for you is that if you are willing to kind of figure out what's happening there in that part of your journey and make some changes to it, then hopefully you can get different outcomes. Okay. All right. Um, I was moving forward to a second round interview. Should I assume the role now is on hold or continue trying to schedule? Well, I wouldn't assume it's on hold. They'll contact you if it's on hold, but I wouldn't push to schedule. So if you've followed up with them and said, yeah, I'm really interested in the job and I really want to move forward in the process, then it's in their court. What I wouldn't do is push for the scheduling. I wouldn't follow up again. That can look desperate. You just need to wait. Remember, a lot of these companies are just trying to figure out what to do internally, and hiring might not be their biggest priority. It is to you because you want the job, but it's not to them. So it's about being really respectful of that. Now, if you haven't followed up and they're waiting to hear from you, then please do. But if you have, I would just wait. Carla says, do I need to make any tweaks when searching for a remote job? I think the most important thing when searching for a remote job is just making sure that you're targeting companies that offer remote work. And the good news is there's more sites now than ever that will introduce you to that. Freelance.com, remote.com, Upwork. There are sites that are posting jobs that are remote. You can also search for remote jobs on sites like Glassdoor and Indeed and LinkedIn. So just make sure that you're targeting them and you know that companies offer remote. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting your time. You don't really tweak anything on your resume and LinkedIn profile. There's nothing that you put on there that says I can work remote that's going to make any difference. Let's see. All right. So Puneet says, if there's an option to select between a video interview and a call interview, what would you prefer during this time? Yeah, that's a great question, Puneet. Actually, folks, go for the video interview. During times of crisis like this, when you're on a phone, they are losing eye contact, facial expressions, hand gestures, and these communicate a lot about you as a person, especially sort of your enthusiasm and your humility can be lost on the phone when it's only voice tone. So in times like this, if they're saying, hey, we're remote interviewing, do you want to do phone or video? Go for video. Okay, great question. Great question. Let's see. Is it right to send a message to the hiring manager after you see a job posted? If so, what is exactly the right way to go about it? Yeah. So, okay, January, by the way, great question, January. So right now, because of a lot that's going on, I think that reaching out to somebody, first of all, make sure that you're 100% match. Do not stuff a hiring manager's inbox if you're not 100% match. That will really work against you. But if you are 100% match and you see the job just got posted, please make sure that you've got all your tools ready. So your resume and LinkedIn profile need to be in good shape. But whenever you message a hiring manager, whenever you are going around the ATS, it is very, very important that you put together what we call a disruptive cover letter or an introduction letter. So this is a letter where you tell the compelling story of why you feel deeply connected to the company, to the brand, to the mission, to their customers, whatever it is that is making you so passionate about this organization that you're willing to go around it and have the, confidence to reach out to the hiring manager. There's got to be a good reason behind that. You can't just say, hey, I saw your job. I wanted to say, hi, I'm really interested. You need to tell them a story. So one of the things that we teach at Work It Daily is a disruptive cover letter, and we have our members write them. So when they see an opportunity, they write the cover letter, they send it to the coaches. We take a look at it, make sure that it's compelling, because it can't be self-serving. You can't say, here's why I'm perfect for your job. That is not the right story. That is, again, narcissistic. The story should be, I'm reaching out to you and going beyond, just applying, because here's why I love your company. Here's why I've been using your product for 20 years. Here's why I first learned that this was the kind of work for me. You've got to tell me a story, as if you were meeting that hiring manager at an event, a real event, and you walked up to them. You would never walk up to them and say, I'm the perfect person for your job, and let me tell you why. You would never do that in person to a stranger. But you could walk up to them and say, you know what? I am such a fan of your company. I got to tell you the story about how I fell in love with it. That you could do to a hiring manager. And that's what you need to do today online. So that would be my advice to you if you're going to reach out. Okay. Hey, Michael Townsend. Good to see you, my friend. With remote work, find a Facebook group or other chat medium that people share ideas with and experiences. Sometimes those areas will also promote remote work as well. Thank you, Michael. Michael's an amazing person in the recruiting space, and he's always spot on with his contributions, and that is so true. We're talking about remote. We can still connect with people, folks. Think about it. Can you imagine when these kinds of crises went on and we did not have social media? If we're quarantined, we still can reach to people in groups and talk to them and have meaningful conversations and use our brains and connect. It's incredible that that can be done. Most definitely. Lenny says, hey, JT, I signed up for LinkedIn Premium to reach out to HR execs and ask them what skills I should hone to be considered for a role in their company. Is that the right approach? So I'm not sure what kind of response you're going to get. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I think LinkedIn Premium gives you in-mails, which means you can actually message people more than 300 characters. I think that there's a lot of fatigue in that technique. A lot of people have been paying premium and reaching out to HR. I get a lot of HR people who say, I don't have time for that. It used to be the thing to do. In fact, if you had talked to me just, a couple of years ago, I would have told you that's what you want to do. But now it doesn't work that way. The better thing, if I was going to spend in-mail credits, it would be on reaching out to people in the organization, say in the department that I'm interested in, and trying to have a conversation with them and say, tell me about how you got your job. Tell me about why you love working there. Tell me about where you see the industry going. I would be having meaningful conversations with people that where we share the knowledge and the skill base instead. I would use your in-mails for that. I just think it's better time spent because HR is getting a ton of those and they're probably not responding. Steven says, I just had a job interview for a talent acquisition coordinator and my career experience is in customer service and administration. That seems like a good match. I have just finished my degree and a bachelor's in business majoring in human resources, but I'm struggling to break through as people want experience. Oh, Steven, welcome to the Catch-22, Steven. Welcome to the world. A coordinator role is an entry-level role, so it sounds like you are definitely on track. Getting that experience is tough. School teaches us everything except how to get the job. I'm going to be really honest there for anybody. And I think anybody that's even been out of the workforce for a while, that's something I talk about. We go to school and we assume that by having a degree, we're going to be able to get a job, but it's not how it works. Job search is a very intentional and proactive process. And for a lot of recent grads, they have no experience in it, no knowledge. They certainly have no working knowledge of what it's like to work in a company. So they can't even wrap their head around what's going on the other side. My advice to you is that you have to be hyper targeted, as I said earlier, with a bucket list and be working on networking with people in the department that you want to be working in. Now that takes, especially new grads, way out of their comfort zone. I remember, back before all this, when my father made me after graduation, he said, you're going to a networking event. I said, no way. I have nothing to add. I have no experience. I'm going to feel stupid. Why would I go meet with these people? I'm going to feel like I'm trying to get something from him. And he said, no, that's not it at all. He said, people who network for a while understand it's about having meaningful conversations, getting to know people, and eventually through those friendships and relationships, finding ways to create value for one another. We serve our network. So the best advice that I can give you is that you need to start building a network and you serve that network. You reach out to them and say, hey, I am a brand new recent grad and I am trying to understand and navigate my way. What advice would you give a recent grad? What's the most important thing that you would tell your 22-year-old self? Go talk to these people. They're going to be happy to give you that advice. They're going to love that somebody's asking them, and they're going to want to be able to share things that can help you. And that's how you start to build your relationship with the people that can eventually help you get hired. And then someday you'll repay the favor, right? Because we serve our network. But yeah, job search right out of college, most people don't know how to do it. So I'd also tell you definitely get some help with that. Okay. Star says, I just got a job that will only last 2 months. Should it be added to my resume? Most definitely. Absolutely. Put that it's a contract gig, especially if you're doing some really valuable work. You're going to have some great bullet points to put on there. Most definitely. Jacob says, is there any age limitations when to switch industries or job tasks? Absolutely not. So you can switch careers at any time. Is it easy? No. I'm going to be really honest there. Switching careers requires a strong strategy and really consistent tactics. If you want it, you can make it happen, but you've got to want it. There are a lot of barriers to switching careers. Once you pick a lane and you start going down a lane, people don't want to do a U-turn and go back to the beginning. But a lot of times there's not a really easy way to jump. And that's just how it is. But if you're committed to it and you want to make it happen, you will make it happen. Most definitely. It's just work. And you have to ask yourself, how badly do I want it? Let's see. Lusku says, can you expand a little on what blacklisting looks like inside the HR community? Yeah, I can. So you know that we have these applicant tracking systems that we all use, that companies use now. So when your applications come in, we're going through them. So when somebody starts applying incessantly to every job that we have at our company and their profile comes up again, again, they get flagged as a desperate job seeker with no focus. And we say, it's probably not somebody that we want because obviously something crazy is going on there. So that's one way you can get blacklisted. Another way you can get blacklisted is, let's say you get called for a phone screen. They say, can you meet now? And for some reason you say, no, I'm sorry, can we meet another time? Well, you've probably just lost your slot because there's 100 other people behind you. And once a recruiter has talked to 10 people, they usually have enough people, it's just reality, that they can work off of. But you now want your interview. So you keep messaging. Can we schedule? Can we schedule? Can we schedule? Can we schedule? Blacklist. You have to think about your actions, folks. You get blacklisted by being excessive. You get blacklisted for being pushy, right? That's the only reason why, honestly. It's when people are excessive, because we're taught that anything we see in the interviewing phase, basically multiply that by 10, and that's what we're going to get for an actual person when they're in the job for a while. People, let their guard drop. So if I'm seeing any sort of extreme behavior in the interview process, then I know that's going to happen in the job, and we don't want that. So be very, very careful. Excellent. Is this helping everybody? Is this helping? Here's the thing. I'm streaming here a couple times a week. I'm going to keep streaming as we go through this entire set of crises together, because I do not want you to freak out. I want you to know that there are actions that you can take. You can sit there every day and give yourself anxiety and worry, or you can get answers. You can ask the tough questions, you can get answers, and you can take action, right? That's what we're trying to do here. So I hope I see in the comments that this is working, because really this is the solution. The only viable solution that I can give you right now is to get answers, to address your fears, calm your fears, and take action. Yeah? Okay, good. Michael says, how can we overcome being a perfectionist that everything has to be done right the first time? Well, there's a lot of upsides to being a perfectionist, but I think that the best thing I've ever seen work, I'll be brutally honest, best thing I've ever seen work is a peer accountability. And I'm going to give you a great example because I'm actually staring at her over this camera. So Lindsay, who is our video and production director extraordinaire here at the company, we've been working together for many years, and Lindsay is a video perfectionist. And so we as peers have had to talk her off the ledge many times and call her out and say, no, stop. It's good enough, and you're going to get used to it. And with enough time, Lindsay has been able to accept it. Does it still bother her? Of course it does, because that's Lindsay, and it's what makes her so great at her job. But I hope, Lindsay, nod at me if it's true, and she's nodding, that by having a peer say to her, let it go, right? Let it go. I'm not going to sing, I promise. That makes a difference. So my advice to you is go find a peer in your organization and say, here's the deal. I'm a perfectionist. I know it. You need to call it out on me. You need to pull me aside, tug your ear. We have a code. You let me know when I'm being too extra and I'm taking up too much time. And when you have that accountability partner, it makes all the difference. Do you think people will be less prone to in-person networking meetings during this crisis? Yes, most definitely. I would definitely tell you now's the time to set video conferences with people or phone calls, but most people aren't going to want to meet in person until things are better. And folks, this is going to pass. Let's look ahead, right? It happened in China first. Wuhan's already back on track. Whole thing was roughly 6 weeks, right? So, and we're handling it, making a lot of smart strategic moves about not holding major events and things like that. We got this. Deep breath. This is temporary, but it is wise for people not to do a lot of face-to-face right now. What about those who are looking for internships? Should they be looking for anything related to their field or something they're good at? It's a great question. So for me, when you're looking for an internship, you're trying to either build industry knowledge or a skill set, plain and simple. Industry knowledge or a skill set. My question to you is, what's more important to you in your career? So once you figured that out, then you build a bucket list. Let me tell you something, folks. College students, recent grads, you especially need the bucket list because you don't have experience. So you've got to dial in and tell people why you love their company. What you lack in experience, you make up for in passion and energy and say, here's what's going to get me up every day to come to your job and do this tough work and learn a new skill and try to exceed your expectations. That's what every employer wants to hear from somebody in their 20s. So if you're looking for an internship, it's all about the bucket list, and either choose industry or skill set and tell them the story. All right. Doug says, I had an interview with a person I would have been working for. I didn't get the job, but it's been a few weeks and she and I got along swimmingly. Is it okay that I send her a LinkedIn request? Heck yeah, absolutely. I'd actually email her, Doug. I'd say, look, I'm so glad you found the right candidate, but I can't tell you how much I thought, we had such an interesting dialogue. What's the best way to stay in touch with you? Would you be okay with me sending you a LinkedIn connection? I just loved it to network with you in the future. You were such an interesting conversationalist. I learned a lot. Can we stay in touch? I would email and ask that. Also, it's really good to form when you don't get the job, you wait about a month and you go back and just say, I'm so glad you found the right person. But again, can we stay in touch? Because I would love to earn a job there someday. A lot of companies assume when you don't get the job that you're going to be bitter and that you won't ever want to work for them again. So taking the high road and circling back after a month, not too soon, but saying that and nurturing the relationship can be a great way to get literally the next job they have. They might not even post it. They might be like, well, we'll hire Doug. He was second, right? They said no, not today when they didn't hire you. They didn't say no, not ever. So I would definitely do that. Let's see. What's the difference between being proactive and being perceived as desperate? Oh, Rodney, that is such a great question. So to me, proactive is about adding value, and being pushy is about taking value. So if you were to message somebody and say, hey, I saw this video, or I saw this article, or I saw this thing that was going on, I thought of you, and send them something, that's proactive. That's adding value. If you message, hey, just wanted to see where you're at in the hiring process, haven't heard from you in a while, that's pushy, right? That's taking. So it's all in the way that you present and the frequency. That's the other thing. If you're messaging all the time, it's too much, right? But if you can pace yourself, that's better. You got to be able to realize when too much is too much. So for me, it's timing and it's the quality of the content. Are you giving them something or are you trying to take something? Okay. I have an interview next week. Can you please suggest how to boost my confidence and prep? Plain and simple. It's so funny because in Work It Daily, we have an entire course called the interview prep. And it's the most comprehensive interview course, I will say this, that you will ever go through, because we take you through every step of the interview process. We give you all these questions to study, how to answer them, everything. When you do interview prep, you will be confident. If you're going to sit here and wing it, you will not be confident. And unfortunately, again, this is not something they teach us in school. And a lot of people don't make time for it. They're busy. Maybe they're working and they're looking for a new job. So they wing it and they blow the interview. It's the biggest spot where people blow things. So Darsh, I'm going to be completely honest with you and tell you need to do some interview prep, some serious interview prep. Alan asks, do you look at LinkedIn profiles to help fix them? They do. And you know what, Alan, this is probably a good chance to say this right now. So folks, the team at Work It Daily, we actually have put up our services at a really deep discount right now. And the reason for that is because this is why I started this company a decade ago. I told you that. So one of the things that we have done is promoted a big discount on our platform so that people can get in there and start working on their resume and their LinkedIn profile and their interview bucket list. This is all stuff that we teach and support inside the platform. So to your question, yes, if you join our program, and you can do so at a discount, we will look at your LinkedIn profile. Our coaches are all trained by me. They will look at it. They will tell you exactly what's wrong with it. They will tell you what you need to fix. And then we have a set of video tutorials that show you how to fix it so that you can learn to fix it yourself. When you fix it, you send it back in and they tell you if it's right or not. And then we do the same thing for your resume, and we do the same thing for your cover letter, and we can do it for your interview prep, and we can help you validate your job search bucket list. We have a job search checklist, one that we give away for free, by the way, that just gives you everything you need to know. So you guys can get the checklist for free. But our team works with you on that checklist. So if you are someone who is questioning that, now would be a great time, especially since it's a discount. Here's the other reason I would tell all of you that it would be a great time to come hang with us. We are a micronet. We're private. So what you talk about and do inside our network can never be found on the internet. You can't Google search and find this stuff. LinkedIn, yes. Facebook, yes. Twitter, any of the other social networks, they are public and that stuff can be found. We are a private community that people join in order to discuss what they're dealing with, work through things, and privately discuss, separate from the community, with the coaches. So this was designed with this in mind, because I knew, again, when a recession hit, most people don't have hundreds and thousands of dollars to spend on career coaches. Also, because of coronavirus, you can't go meet with a coach right now. It's not in your best interest, right? You should be not being around people, so to speak. So this is a way for you to do all of that virtually. And we know it's important. And that's why we agreed as a team that we would put it out as a discount. So feel free to check it out. If you think that you need help, that's exactly what we do. It's honestly, it's very, very inexpensive. And it's a way for you to get that feedback directly from experts. Hopefully that helps. You guys can check it out. Again, this is really near and dear to my heart, but I'm also here We're giving away a ton of free resources. I'm streaming live all the time. I get what's happening right now. All right. And we would love to have you inside Work It Daily because we really want to work with you and help you speed this process up and get the results that you're looking for. But if we're not for you, that's okay. Still going to be here for you. I promise. Marie says, I'm late in my career as a senior manager and I'm looking for a director level position. Should I subscribe to your professional or executive? That's a great question. So for people to know, we have 2 levels. Professional is super affordable and you get in there and you work with a whole team of career coaches. It's great. Executive level is smaller and most of the people there are director level or higher. So VPs, CFOs, CEOs, all of that level. So if you are operating at that level, that higher level, then you would probably want to be part of the executive program because of the fact that the coaches there, myself, we work it and build your stuff around an executive profile, which is oftentimes different than a professional profile. So they're very, very different levels and different levels of service as a result. So for those people that are at the executive level, you're going to need a bit more hands-on. To be honest, I'm going to be perfectly honest, everybody out there, it is much harder to get an executive job than it is to get a professional job. So my professionals out there, our platform is very affordable and we're able to kind of get you results faster. Executives end up needing a bit more because of just how rare the job opportunities are for them. So there's a whole extra level strategy that has to go into it. So that's really the differences that happen there. Okay. All right, folks. So enough on that. I just want to say one more time, work on your resume. You can always use LinkedIn and the PDF that I taught you today. Get your LinkedIn profile optimized. It's about intellectual humility. Please don't oversell yourself on LinkedIn right now and start building your interview bucket list. Who do you want to work with so that you can focus on who you want to network with? These are all things you can do right now so that if this crisis hits you in some way, you will at least be able to say, I was proactive. I did something before the curveball, right? And I just trust me mentally, that's going to put you in a better place. I don't want you beating yourself up. Now, listen, if you don't end up doing any of this and it hits you, that's okay too. Just come and get some help. That's all I'm saying. Folks, you don't have to do this alone. That's not what you should do in times of crisis. In times of crisis, you should find people that know what they're talking about and get help. It will help calm your fears and it will help get you what you need so that you can stay on track and get results. But know this is going to pass. How long it's going to take, we don't know, but it will eventually pass, and how you cope with it and how you stay in check will have a huge impact on how you work through it and how much success you have, okay? And just know that I care about all of you, that I'm here on LinkedIn supporting you, and just be good to yourselves, okay? All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.